Hailing frequencies open and ready for another episode of our watch party for Star Trek The Original Series. I'm joined, as always, by my crew. I'm going to call you guys a crew now. My first officer, Ken.
Oh, Captain, my captain.
My science officer, James.
Oh, Captain, my captain.
And my, let's see.
Don't you call me yeoman.
I was thinking
how about communications
Admiral? Okay, and we could stick original series. I was going to give her a promotion called Katie the Admiral, but that's fine. Communications officer. Yes, Katie, how are you?
Computer.
All right. So, what am I? Am I the captain? That was kind of a default. I think
so. Yeah.
I thought of myself more as the mascot of the ship, but maybe I've been listening to too much Dungeon. Not included. What is that noise? Is that James adjusting his microphone?
I knocked it over.
It's a live show. There's nothing we can do about this. So yes, every Friday we watch another episode of Star Trek The Original Series on Twitch Prime. Hopefully by now you've already linked the two together and you're watching along with us. Hey, tell a friend, because it's better to watch Star Trek with friends, which is what I found actually so far watching this with you three fine folks. It's fun to discuss these things afterwards as opposed to just screaming to myself in the darkness. Today's episode is one that has a title I'm not happy with. What are little girls made of? I know it's from a nursery rhyme. I don't know if I trust this show yet to do an episode with that as the title. But I guess we'll find out. Anything you want to guide us on, the people who've seen this show and know it very well, Ken, Katie?
No, not actually. I say we watch this and then discuss it afterwards. I think this is one of those kind of episodes.
Okay, fair enough. So, yeah, we're going to be in the chat. Chat with us during the show, please. And then afterwards, we'll be back to discuss the episode. We probably will not be interrupting during the episode to scream and yell, unless it's really creepy. So stay tuned. All right, we're back. That was What Are Little Girls Made Of, which I think was that title was a red herring. The little girl had very little to do with this.
She did. I don't know why it was called that.
Yeah, well, I think I know, because like 90% of this episode was yum. It was 60s. Isn't she gorgeous? And she is. I lost the name of the actress who played it. I actually had it pulled up during the show.
Jackson.
Sherry, yeah, wow. She looked great in the role. She was really that's like 60s sci-fi babe, and her and Kirk macking on each other, really awkward, which is, perfect for the time period. And the fact that she was like ultra naive and innocent, really inappropriate. Didn't like any of that at all. It went up and down a lot for me. Yeah, Jay.
I feel like this is definitely our first Kirk babe, right?
You are correct, I think.
I think so, right? Because his relationship so far with other people, right? The first girl, Salt Vampire, it's like, oh, that's Bones' girl, and then I can't with the yeoman, right? Like, this is traditional, like, I'm Kirk, I'm sexy.
For no reason. My sex appeal is going to make this robot question its programming. So ridiculous.
I like Android stuff.
Yeah, I have a general question about Android stuff that I don't know if anybody here can actually answer, or if this is going to be one of those things that gets us hate mail from Trekkies. I know that continuity in later Star Trek, especially Next Generation on, is super important, and a lot of people love, for example, Picard. I think was maybe a year out now, right? Picard's been out for about a year, and that first episode of Picard, which is unfortunately the only one I got a chance to see before that Walled Garden went up.
You didn't finish Picard?
I did not. Walled Garden went up, and I didn't. It's on my list. It is on my list. I might be doing Star Trek in chronological order, but anyways, I know that first episode brings up Data and the legacy after. Was it not Generations? Insurrection? Is that the one
Nemesis.
where Nemesis.
Is the last one.
Yeah. So like the entire legacy of this android and his family tree. And I think, but like how much of that is it, or if any, is linked up to Roger Kobe? Any of it? Does anybody know? I don't think any. Despite this is the first android.
Now I'm curious.
I
Yeah.
looked it afterwards because I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is amazing! It's a dangerous tale of creating androids." You think? I mean, and I know Frank, you've only seen the first episode of Picard. But that's the plot of the whole season.
Yeah.
So I was like, "This guy's got to come up," and I couldn't find anything, and I was really sad about it.
That's unfortunate because I thought, like you, Katie, I was like, there's got to be some sort of link there. I did no research to determine it. I have a feeling that there wasn't because, like, Kobe was like, and I think it's Kobe, right? Corby. Bad penmanship on my part. Like Corby, like he rediscovered technology from a lost alien race. Not so much created it himself.
Right.
So I guess it's different enough that no one has really linked them together yet, but I am legitimately surprised.
It makes sense that they would never talk about it again because Kirk doesn't tell anybody.
That's right. This is in the old West style of sci-fi exploration.
It would be wrong if people knew about it in the future because we know he didn't tell anyone.
Yeah, and he literally says, "Oh no, Corby, he died. He'd be dead." That's not the line. I don't remember the line. He was like, "Corby was never here," or something like that. That brings us to the end. So yeah, it's a pretty interesting episode. My one thing I would like to just say, actually, I already said a bunch of things. Why doesn't somebody else make with the words?
Can I bring up something?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Can I bring up something?
Yes, please.
In the beginning, with Spock and Chapel, when you hear Corby's voice over the intercom and Spock asks to verify if that's actually him, she's like, "Well, we were engaged. I think I would know." I think Spock has every reason to be curious about this after what we've seen so far with salt vampires that can turn into people and duplicate them, and gods that are friends and can create stuff from the air. Like, I think he's justified in asking that. Don't blow him off like that.
Totally, he is justified.
We have to assume that that's like once in like every few months sort of thing for them. We're seeing it like once every day, but we just don't get to see the boring days.
James, even if it's every couple of months, you still have to question that.
I think if that's happened to you once, you would have some issues. Those were pretty serious events that would stick with you. But also, she says it weirdly. She's like, "Haven't you ever been engaged?" And like, what?
It was just a dig at Spock. That was intentionally
weird.
Emotionless man
Can people
dig.
Stop digging on Spock.
It's always the same dig too. It's like, you don't even know what feelings are, you monster. And it's like, but like many a times, it's like your feelings have gotten in the way, and it's a problem.
But to credit, right, Kirk's tell for him not being the real Kirk was being racist to Spock, right? Spock was like, "The captain would never be racist to me." So, that's at least something nice.
Yeah, if it was McCoy, we wouldn't know. No idea.
If half-breed did it, if McCoy didn't take the opportunity to call him a half-breed, green-blooded son of a... Yeah, no. It's a problem. It is definitely a problem. There is definitely a lack of learning curve on this crew where they never really remember the things that happened before or care. It's very troubling. Speaking of which, so my note was Shatner is doing double billing work again. Episode, like, it was just, wasn't it the last episode we saw was Enemy?
It's like
Within?
2 episodes ago?
Yeah.
It was either the last episode or I can't even remember it anymore. But like, it was why were they writing stories on Star Trek and then they're like, all right, pitch 2 versions of this story?
I think because
we have some aliens who are really powerful, want to put you in a human zoo. Pitch 2 versions. All right. We have evil doppelganger for the captain. pitched 2 versions, and then for whatever reason they made both, and then they were like, well, we made them, we gotta air them. It's very weird. I don't know why there's so many, like, here's one version of this episode and here it is again.
I have to assume that they did it often because it was cheaper, right? They could maybe pay Kirk a little extra for the screen time, but he's probably just acting on a day rate.
Oh,
right?
yeah, definitely the doppelganger. It's the same thing with the Cylons in a way, being humans, like it's cheaper. It is cheaper just to have them look like normal people. Oh my God, they look like non-union people. Our villains are amazing. How is that possible? You're going to find a lot of villains looking like non-union people. But yeah, it is just odd. It was a little weird note that we were having yet another story, although a lot more stage time, it felt like, between the 2 Shatners. Kirk and his doppelganger, Robot Kirk, did seem to have more interaction than the crazed version in The Enemy Within.
I'm going to bring it up again, actually, this whole engineer transporter problem. When they beamed up Android Kirk, why did they not realize that it wasn't human?
Their roboticness is literally skin deep. When their hands get like burnt slightly, it's like, oh, there's robot stuff in there. There are resistors and stuff.
They couldn't even tell that he weighed more, was metallic, didn't have organs.
We don't know what he's made out of, right? He could weigh the same.
The centrifuge thing. I mean, I think there's a lot of cool stuff that got shown for the first time. A lot of cool sci-fi elements brought up in this episode. It was a lot of fun. I like the centrifuge that cloned the Kirk into an android slug. I like the little rubber android slug, that little guy that they put on the thing. That was cool. That reminded me of an 80s toy. Ken, I don't know if you remember it. I'm going to describe it. You try to remember if you even know what it is.
I hate when you do this.
It was like a rubber mold. You would put like a toy, and he could rip them apart, and he could put them back together. And he came with a stand, and I think you could put like molten rubber on him. There was an entire gimmick. It was from the early 80s.
I used to have one of these. Keep going, and I'll figure this out.
I also remember that, like, if you dropped him on the carpet in your family's living room, he'd be covered in like all the little like 70s era carpeting nylon, and he would be completely unsticky anymore, and it'd be worthless. Yep. Does that help?
Yep. No, I remember exactly what it was. Again, I had one, but I forgot the name of it.
Yeah, I cannot remember the name of it, but that's what the slug looked like for the Android. Was this good for you? Topical said this is a subscription. I'm sorry.
Mangalords.
Oh my God, I think you're right. Yes. Hooray. Hooray, beer. Carolyn's, do you have anything to add to this?
You totally took whatever I was thinking. Now I'm thinking of whatever this toy is.
I was going to say this episode's a sweet spot for me. I love the whole idea of what does it mean to be human, and what makes us human. Is it our minds? Is it our souls? Is it our memorized experiences? And it always brings me back to the whole concept of, even if you copy yourself into another body or whatever, like your original consciousness still dies, which really seems like a flaw in literally all of these. But yeah, no, I love this is just a plot that I always enjoy, almost in almost every form.
You're right. The plot of this is pretty interesting. And also, like, I mean, we can extrapolate that further. They don't, but like, what about transporters? Are transporters making new? We're not going to do this right now. We're not going to do it. We're not. Like, are the transporters making new versions of you, or are they just?
They did. They made a new. We already had this in The Enemy Within. They literally made a new version of someone. It's not even fiction.
So you know that it does have the ability to make skin and stuff, which is interesting.
It's really, there's a lot of uncomfortable questions that are brought up on this one, but they're not they don't dwell on them. That's one of the fun things about Star Trek as an anthology show, is it can bring up things like, are robots real? We're not dealing with it again. Thanks. It's as great as the time travel episode, or not even the time travel episode, the episode that has a momentary passing moment. Like, there's a moment where they time travel and they're like, time travel. Nope. And then they just ended the episode. Think of how many other like big shows would talk about this for years or months, just try to unravel the knot. And they just were like, time travel, huh? Nope. And moved on. Same thing with this. There's a little bit of a, is robot Kirk better off than human Kirk? Clearly not. But are android people able to feel emotions? We got the scientist is saying that they cannot, but he is an android and he's professing love to his fiancée. So like where does any of this, where does this land? Is this real? Is this all imagined?
Assumably he thinks he's different because he copied his consciousness, right?
Right.
So because he comes from being a human first as compared to the other two that were created as non-human beings. But again, right, that kind of that's the whole point, right? Like what makes a human, right? Is it your ability to have independent thoughts and feelings, because they show that the big guy and the girl both have independent thoughts and feelings at some points.
Yeah. The problem that I had with this was it seemed like he was conscious the whole time. Like it was actually his brain inside that android.
Mhm.
Up until the end when Kirk tried coming up with his own pseudo logic to kind of screw with his mind, which then set him off into the whole robot thing.
Yeah, there was definitely some sort of like moment where it was too much for him to process or too much for him to fake. It overall, I think, a valid effort at this kind of story. What is it to be human and what is it to be synthetic at a time when like a computer was the size of a building and can do what like a calculator could do now. Like this is big thinking time in 60s Star Trek. Speaking of that big guy that James mentioned, you know who that was, right?
Yep.
Lurch. That was Lurch. Ted Cassidy.
Ted Cassidy, yep.
Who was Lurch from the Addams Family and a million other things. He looked familiar, I'll admit, and I looked him up while we were watching, and I was like, "Oh, it's Ted Cassidy." Yes, of course, it's Lurch. And then in his bio, it says also narrated The Incredible Hulk, and my mind just boom.
Wow.
That is his voice.
I feel bad because I kept thinking of him as the Lurch-like fellow robot.
But there you go. He's true to form.
Bringing up Ted Cassidy's character, we're 7 episodes into the traditional series. Is this the first red shirt death that we've gotten?
It's not the first death, but this is the most like classic red shirt people deaths. The only 2 people that went down red shirts, and they died like immediately. That one guy just fell into a hole.
Off camera, yeah.
Kirk even calls them afterwards. So it's like, it's clear. It's very clear.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. The first notable.
It was, and it felt
its
so
non-notability.
like, the second he went down, it was like, yeah, those 2 guys, they're helping out. I was like, oh, they're gone. They're done.
That's awesome. I feel like I remember, what was her name? Andromeda? That can't be right.
Andrea.
Okay, I knew it was something that was very close to being Android. Andrea. Take that, all you watchers out there who are named Andrea. I think you're a robot. No. When she killed Robot Kirk because he wouldn't kiss her, relatable. But also, like, just to wrap it up, I mean, the murder-suicide that ended this episode was very convenient. Yeah. And that's not a sentence I thought I was going to say today.
Yeah. A real convenient murder-suicide.
It was a very convenient murder-suicide. Where they're like, how are we going to write this out? What's going to happen? And the writer was like, you know what? She wants to kiss him because I guess. And the gun goes off.
Speaking of the writer, did anybody catch who wrote this episode?
I did not.
Frank, are you aware of the writer Robert Bloch?
Yeah. It sounds familiar, but I can't think of what he's written.
He was the novelist of Psycho.
Okay. Yeah.
And he also wrote the screenplay to Psycho 1 and 2 and the Hammer movie, The House that Dripped Blood.
Awesome. Let's see. Do we see any parallels in this and Psycho? Yeah, there's a little bit quiet, reserved person doing things with bodies that he shouldn't be. Yeah, all right. I think this passes. Yes, I see. This is a proto psycho. Nice little Easter egg. I'm just gonna. I want to. I'm sorry, Jane. Ken, what were you saying?
And one more thing about Sherry Jackson. She was actually instrumental in helping to design her outfit alongside Gina Roddenberry and the costume designer.
Yeah,
That makes it a little better.
Yeah,
but may technically have been accredited with the creation of the hip huggers with that outfit.
It was and I'm surprised that outfit made it to television. I'll leave it at that.
She looked so good in it, though.
Yeah.
Indeed. So I just want to bring up a couple of highlights that I really enjoyed. Number one is actually my only one that I really want to bring up that I haven't already talked on is when Robert Corby, the missing R, when they're messaging him on the planet, and Kirk is like, "Oh, by the way, there'll be two of us. Here's your fiance." His reaction, what he says is, "Where are you?" Watch it again. He actually says, "Where are you?" to his fiance when he is alone on this planet and there's a spaceship he is talking to. She's clearly on the spaceship. And I thought that was very adorable and very realistic. He was so shocked that she was there that where are you? And then in the background, you could see two extras sort of like looking at her as she's talking to her fiance after being away for a long time. And it was cute.
The extra.
They're in like bathrobes. What were they doing there? Who were they? Why weren't they in uniform? Those extras drove me crazy.
We almost forgot about them already. It was like Katie was talking about them for the first 15 minutes.
Who are they? Did they get lost?
Oh, hold on. I've got something on camera. Our sponsor for this is Delicious Flurries from McDonald's.
That's mine.
So if you would like a flurry, you just send us.
You married the wrong person.
That's right. Hey, look who's guesting on the show. Hey, show him that baby.
Wow.
All right.
Wow is
You
right.
can't
Right.
cut it out. It's
That's
live.
right. Subscriber only baby shots. That's right. I'm sorry. I don't want to do it.
I needed McDonald's.
Also, the TV will shut down. Professionalism.
I want McDonald's.
I know that's what
We
I wanted.
all want McDonald's. That's why this is just we've lost all.
And pretty soon we'll find out what a little girl or a little boy actually is made of.
That's right.
Me and
As I
McDonald's.
dissect my child. What? No.
All right. The end. Goodbye, everybody.
That's stalactite. That's all I gotta say.
Yes, that is awful. But what was I gonna say? Yeah, that was it. So I think this is a pretty good episode. It's a pretty good. Why is James walking? Oh, what if he walked into frame with me? That's very creepy. I think it was a pretty good episode. It was nice to see androids finally showing up, robots. Classic Star Trek sci-fi trope. I think they dealt with it in as good a way as they could, but it was primarily a vehicle to see a hot Shatner kissing a hot guest star of the week. And let's get more of that.
Oh, there will be more.
And there will be more. There's definitely going to be more. What's the episode for next week, folks?
Miri.
That's it? James, can you adjust your mic more?
I didn't touch it.
No, all right, so it's Miri next week. I don't have a clue what this episode's about. I know that's kind of what I've been saying this entire time, but I really have Miri. Spelt M-I, like
M-I-R-I.
All right.
It's a name.
Okay, good. All right, we'll find out. If you want to find out, why don't you hit that bell icon? There may not be a bell, and I'm not that familiar with Twitch. There's a heart. Hit that heart icon and follow this network channel, and then subscribe to it. Good night, everybody.
Night.